An NHS campaigner has been told she can no longer scrutinise the actions of the University Hospitals Bristol Trust. Daphne Havercroft raised patient concerns, and at one time she was instrumental in uncovering cancer patients had been misdiagnosed, but the hospital described her as a vexatious complainer. Our health correspondent Matthew Hill reports.
Daphne Havercroft has been campaigning for greater transparency in the NHS for years. She turned up to its board meeting yesterday to be told that as a member of the public, she could not ask any questions. Until recently, she had greater powers to ask these questions before she was banned as a member of the trust.
As a member of an NHS Foundation trust, your job is really to be a critical friend, so at times to ask questions that may be difficult to answer and to try to shed light on the decisions being made behind closed doors.
Mrs Havercroft has just received this letter from the Trust's chief executive. It says, "Some of your information requests have been vexatious in nature and your activities have had a detrimental effect on hospital staff." The letter accused her of grossly misusing the Freedom of Information Act and said her removal from the register was fully justified.
I ask questions. What I do is I try very hard as an ordinary member of the public to hold trust executives and non-executives and governors to account, which the public has a right to do.
It was Daphne Havercroft's questions that helped unearth the crisis in pathology and biopsy screening, where a number of Bristol cancer patients were misdiagnosed. It led to an independent inquiry. But Mrs Havercroft wasn't happy with this inquiry and continued to ask the NHS questions under the Freedom of Information Act about the actions of senior board members when they first knew about pathologists' concerns. These requests were refused as vexatious, something which was upheld by the Information Commissioner. I asked the chairman of the Board of Governors, Dr. John Savage, if he'd be prepared to do an interview to explain the reasoning behind this ban. He declined my request, although as an aside, he said this was not a story, but promised to send me a statement. It says,
"This individual has breached the Foundation Trust Constitution by acting in a manner contrary to the interests of the Trust. We uphold the rights of patients and the public to question how NHS services are run, and we will always be open in responding to reasonable questions."
I am concerned that this accusation is being used against people who are simply asking difficult but really, really relevant questions.
But though Mrs Havercroft is banned, this won't stop her asking difficult questions. Matthew Hill, BBC Points West, Bristol.
Councils in the West will soon be able to let the media and the public film their meetings. The House of Lords is due to agree the change in the law over the next few days. At the moment, cameras must be switched off at several of our councils once proceedings get underway, including Bath and North East Somerset.
In the past, there's been a little bit of concern that you might just get a 10-second snatch from a 3-hour interview, from a 3-hour debate, and that 10-second snatch might just be a controversial statement that's made that has no bearing on the outcome or the quality of the rest of the debate. So I think the fear was about manipulation, I think, as much as anything else.
Now, Yeovil District Hospital is close to raising the £500,000 it needs to build a new special care baby unit.
The hospital says its current facilities aren't big enough and don't give families the privacy they need. Steve Powell went to meet some of the families who've been helped by the unit.
Dylan, who was born 12 weeks prematurely, appears blissfully unaware of the cramped conditions he's been born into. He's just one of the 200 babies that are cared for here every year. And whilst the unit has an excellent clinical record, there's no doubt that the building does leave a lot to be desired when it comes to providing comfort and privacy for babies and their families.
We get superb results for our clinical care, and the staff here do a wonderful job, but we are just so packed in together that we just do not have any space for people's privacy and dignity.
And that's why 2 years ago the hospital launched a public appeal to raise £500,000 to build a new improved facility. One of those helping to raise funds is Sam Langford from Ilchester. Her twins Maya and James were looked after at the unit after they were born 6 weeks early.
Having a bigger space, it just means everything. Makes it more comfortable. You don't hear other people's conversations, you just get to hear your own. You can go and speak to your family. The space will mean everything.
The appeal needs to raise another £100,000 to reach its target, but the hospital is confident that won't be difficult given the strength of public support so far.
Everybody from grandmothers abseiling off the side of the hospital to multinational companies like Westlands all doing their bit to help our baby unit. We're so happy we can build a unit they can be proud of.
If all goes to schedule, it's hoped the new building could be open to those not keen on sticking to schedules by spring next year. Steve Powell, BBC Points West.
Now, it seems increasingly likely that Cheltenham may lose its Banksy. The owners of the building have been considering selling the artwork to an anonymous American collector. They had been prepared to halt that sale and keep the mural in situ if local business leaders had managed to raise £1 million. But so far, no firm offer has been forthcoming from the community.
Bristol tennis player Katie Swan has lost on her debut at Junior Wimbledon. Katie, who's 15, went down in straight sets 6-4, 6-4 to the 11th seed Romanian Iona Rosca. The match was originally due to be played on Saturday but had to be rescheduled twice due to rain.
I was nervous going on, but I relaxed into it fast and loved every minute. The crowd was supporting me, so that was amazing as well. It's my first year playing it, so I'm not sure what other people were expecting, but I just wanted to go out and enjoy it and hopefully play my best and see how it went from there.
And well done to her. She's had an incredible couple of weeks, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Now, 2 Team Bath netball players have been picked for England for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Stacey Francis and Serena Guthrie have made the final squad of 12 for the Games, which start in just 3 weeks' time. Despite being without Bath teammate and captain Pamela Cookie due to injury, they're confident of reaching their first final and improving on the bronze medal England won 4 years ago in Delhi. Now for something to really make you smile, we've given you a little look. There he is. It's a baby giraffe who's been born at a North Somerset zoo. And tonight we can show you the first moving pictures of the moment when he was born.
And the timing was pretty impressive. It all happened just as the keeper was answering a question about when the pregnant mother was likely to give birth.
Jeffrey is now 4 days old, and we sent Fiona Lambden to see how he's getting on. Her report starts with the moment the calf was born.
This is the moment Jeffrey started to make his arrival. His mother Jenny is clearly more than a little uncomfortable. But luckily for her, it was a speedy delivery and her son was out in 2 hours.
It was amazing. It's one of those things you never really get to see, so very lucky. It was a very easy birth, everything was straightforward, didn't have to worry about Jenny, she's a great mum.
And this is the very first time he gets to his feet, helped on by a friendly nudge from his mother. Despite the 15-month pregnancy, the zoo only found out Jenny was expecting in April.
Jeffrey may be only 4 days old, but at 5'9", he's already a lot taller than me, and in the next year, he'll double in height.
He's very inquisitive, he's so brave already, he's interested in what's going on around him, he wants to get into everything, he's already testing his tongue out and his little lips.
As our cameraman Andy soon found out.
It's lovely to think we've got a baby giraffe in the village.
He has really nice spots and he's small and he's cute. He has a little neck as well.
Jenny and Gerald are pretty rare. They're one of just 6 breeding pairs within the UK. Only 3 years ago, Jeffrey's older brother George was born, again, unplanned, a surprise for the zoo. But there won't be any more little Jeffreys, at least not for a while. His parents are now being put on a strict contraception plan. Fiona Lambden, BBC Points West in North Somerset.
I've got a feeling some of you are going to want to see those eyelashes and little knobbly knees again.
He's so cute.
We've put it on our Facebook page so you can watch it and share it.
Yes, and you know what they say? Giraffes make the best weathermen.
Well,
What do you reckon?
Is that true?
Tall?
What I reckon is when David Attenborough retires, they won't be knocking on your doors, Sabette, in a hurry. But
well done, you.
Righty-ho, June rainfall saw, generally speaking, about 60 to 70% worth of average rainfall, so somewhat drier than average. Thanks to all of you who've sent in the data, as ever. Some interesting variation across the theme. Lydney leading the way there, and contrast and compare that down to Steeple Ashton, which has barely had any rain whatsoever. Temperatures generally have been a fair bit above average as well, in some cases the warmest June since 1976. Anyway, tomorrow we'll continue the theme of some warm weather into July as well. The temperatures are on the rise. Be a good deal of dry, sunny weather about, a bit more cloud through the afternoon, a familiar theme of late. High pressure still dominates the pattern for now, and as we head through into tomorrow, the chance of any showers will be very much suppressed. It'll be less than 10% in any one spot. Good deal of sunshine through the morning, but a fair weather cloud through the course of the afternoon. This front running towards us through Thursday will introduce more cloud, but not rain. That's something which will hold off until later Friday into Saturday. So for the rest of this evening then, you'll see the signal there for 1 or 2 showers around. We have seen some signs of those on the radar, but nothing of great consequence. They're dying away anyway. And then as we run through the night, the skies will tend to clear, and that will allow temperatures in 1 or 2 spots to probably get down into higher single figures, so about 8 or 9 Celsius. South Somerset, for example, most areas about 10 or 11. So the legacy of that will be a fine start tomorrow. Good deal of clear weather about through the course of the morning. As temperatures get to about 17, 18 Celsius, the cloud will start to bubble up, and that process continuing on into the afternoon. Generally speaking, the further east you go, you're likely to see more of that. Just perhaps the chance of a shower somewhere like Exmoor, but it will take a bit of high ground, I think, to give enough push for that to happen. So that by far the majority of you dry. Now the pollen count is really soaring at the moment. The UV levels will be high tomorrow as well, as will be the temperatures, up to about 22, 23, maybe 24 Celsius. As I mentioned, there will be change at the end of the week, tail end of Friday, and through until at least the first half of Saturday will be wet. And so we'll update you later in the week. There we go.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Ian. Well, that's about it from us for now. I'll be back at lunchtime tomorrow, and I think our bulletins are back to normal. You're late, isn't it?
No, very late. At 20 to midnight, if you can join us, stay awake. And if you can't, I'll send you to sleep. Good night.
He'll have more gems for you then.
They made it through the group of death. The USA faced the